this person aside from this. What was it, Ronald Reagan who said, someone that agrees with you 80% of the time is not a 20% enemy. Well, when you're in talk radio, talk TV, write articles, whatever, you're going to get feedback. And I've been hearing from some folks that are expressing their concerns are getting nasty emails. Why? We agree probably more than 80% on the big issues. We probably agree 90%, 95% on the big issues. For those that are trying to set a trap for President Trump, I don't have a lot of tolerance for them. To the European leaders that want to get us into a war with Ukraine and Russia and drag us into that, I don't have tolerance for that. But there are some good-hearted people in the MAGA movement that have, well, their convictions about what they're seeing right now, and they're sharing them. And isn't that really what we should be doing? Debating these very important issues that impact all of us and potentially our children, our grandchildren, and debating them in the arena of ideas without writing each other off forever. Because guess what? We're going to need each other if we're going to continue to beat the deep state. That's if the deep state and the Never Trumpers don't derail the MAGA movement and stop us from having success on all the great domestic policies we need. Like the one I heard today on the issue of illegal immigration. Great numbers, great stats. They don't want these things to continue. They don't want to see Donald Trump create an alternative to the Federal Reserve System. There's so many things that he has set out to do, they don't want him to do. And he's not even been in office for his second term, 6 months. And it looks like some of the Never Trumpers, the uniparty people, the neocons, the war hawks, whatever you want to call them, are trying to lead him right down something that will divide and maybe destroy his movement to get what he needs done. So let's debate. Let's have our concerns, our theories, but let's not let them have us turn on each other when we agree 80 to 90 to 95% of the time. I disagree, and you can do it with great passion and even emotion. But don't fall for the trap, which is to stop the historic opportunity to actually make America great again. Joining me now is Anni Cyrus and David Pine. Guys, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Brannon, for having us back.
Just a quick comment by each of you on my opening monologue tonight. Have you guys noticed that a lot of the people pushing President Trump into going to war in the Middle East were people that didn't have anything nice to say about him and were never Trumpers? Have you noticed that? And it has me wondering, are they trying to set up President Trump in his second term, particularly with all the great initiatives he has laid out that would just neuter the deep state, like the Federal Reserve and so much more?
Well, I think the neocons love war. And so if Trump decides to be a neocon warmonger, they'll welcome him with open arms. They won't be Never Trumpers anymore. But the reason they were so opposed to Trump is because he promised to end the wars. He promised to end the forever wars, to pull our troops out of the Middle East, to end the war in Ukraine with Russia, and to bring about a new era of peace through strength and international stability. Such as we haven't seen since the Reagan era, or shortly after the collapse of the Soviet Union. I think they're friends of convenience. I think that Trump will find that if he were to switch back the America First position, they would stab him in the back. They can't be trusted, and unfortunately he's got some very prominent neocons in his own administration, including Rubio, Kellogg, Ratcliffe, Waltz, and others.
We come back, I want to get Annie's response and then go to this. What was this gigantic mushroom cloud popping up there in Tehran tonight? We'll get to that. Lots of clips tonight and analysis. And then Jay Von Fleet, born and raised in China, will give us her thoughts on what China's up to. And Nick Helsher and more. Don't go away.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house. Very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona, with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000. And guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled. And I said, you know, I know you and Brannon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private.
Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
All right, welcome back. Glad you are with us. By the way, I just noticed they were playing that promo on the water filter. That's 2 weeks ago yesterday. 2 weeks ago yesterday, my wife picked these hydrangeas and put them in this vase or vase. I don't know. It looks like a milk jug, glass milk jug. But anyway, 2 weeks ago yesterday, look how beautiful they are. That's because it's in the water that's filtered. There's no chemicals in there. There's no poisons in there. It does it for these flowers. What's it do for you? Or for beautiful Dolly, who drinks that wonderful filtered water. Worldviewwater.net to get yours. I shower with it, which is how I got this thick hair back, along with the Bella Grace, of course. Worldviewwater.net. It's a combination of things, I'll tell you that. Anni Cyrus, liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Annie, my opening monologue. We don't know what President Trump's going to do yet. We don't know. We don't know if it's just going to be fly in with a couple bombers, take out that nuclear facility and exit stage left. I don't know. But I do believe that the people have got to stop turning on each other in a way that we can't repair those bridges and work together. And I see some people coming down on whether it's you, me, David, Leo, others, because we have views and opinions, and they just get so personal and upset. I'm not listening anymore. You're anti-American, you know? I'm like, come on. You know, we can express our views and opinions, and if we agree 90%, 95% of the time, that's pretty good. What say you, Annie?
It's actually interesting you say that. The recent messages I'm receiving are so filled with love. I'm being told to go back. Why don't you go fight for Iran? I'm like, are you not reading my content, or is this the accent getting in the way? When did I ask us to get involved with the war fighting for Iran? I didn't even ask for us to get involved. I've been opposed. I'm like, we should stay out of, like, don't send our troops there. However, on some new developments, I cannot confirm. It has been confirmed by 2 reliable sources, but not enough reliable for me to say for sure. But I will put a scenario on the table here. There might be no choice for President Trump to actually does get involved with this war, because the big promise we've been hearing about looks like there's satellite footage is confirming that IRGC has started putting mines around Hormuz.
Oh, boy.
Thank you. So there might, as much as I think this is their desperate attempt of bluffing and trying to rattle some channels, but if that is what I've been seeing, and if they do blow up our bases or our ships, then I think President Trump will go in as retaliation, because he's been pretty firm on, if you attack us, if you attack our bases, our soldiers, we come back in. So let's keep that in mind as a new possibility. Now, that being said,
let me just separate there, put a pin in the rest of that.
Sure.
For those who don't know, the Straits of Hormuz, that's got shipping coming through there with oil and energy. And David, that could cause fuel prices to go really high at a time again where where Trump's economy is starting to take off and get better, and inflation is down. I mean, he hasn't even been in office 6 months. Again, this kind of thing can help disrupt his success, not to mention what it'll do to other people in other parts of the world, right?
That's right. Yeah, a U.S. war with Iran could cause potentially a global recession, certainly a recession here at home with sky-high fuel prices, perhaps causing them to double. There's all kinds of different things that could happen. As I mentioned on one of your last programs, Russia warned of uncontrolled global escalation if Israel bombed Iranian nuclear sites. And then after the war started, they warned of regional nuclear escalation between Iran and Israel. And just tonight, we heard IRGC TV reportedly stated that they're going to have some kind of spectacular demonstration that will be remembered for centuries. And I'm just speculating, but it sounds like they referred to an above-ground nuclear test. I'd love to hear what.
Well, there are rumors. There are rumors that some kind of 4.2 earthquake has been felt. Again, I can't confirm that, but I am getting
5.2.
5.2.
5.2. Yes.
What do you think that means, Annie?
I strongly believe that was not an earthquake, especially because the area on the map, when you look at it, it's not earthquake-prone area in Iran. It's kind of the same as the story of Bam. I don't know if your audience remember in 2007, there was an earthquake that literally flattened the city of Bam in Iran. And it was supposed to be an earthquake until 5 or 6 years later, IRGC said, no, it was us doing a test and proving to you we have back then 72 million hostages in this country. So I think this one, the 5.2 one that was just reported, could have very well be a test.
And of course, we also have a video out today of Iran. Were you about to mention this?
Yes.
Here they are caressing a missile with a nuclear symbol on it. So again, more of a threat here.
And also remember, starting this morning, well, I should say late night, last night, our time, morning of Iran, Supreme Leader isn't in charge of the country. It's not Islamic Republic no longer. It is IRGC Supreme Council, which, as I mentioned earlier on your radio, that means they don't have to follow the Sharia fatwa of the Supreme Leader, which means if they want to use nuke, they can, because he's not there to stop them anymore.
All right. I know I interrupted you. Was there anything else you needed to say?
No, I was just going to say I agree. I understand emotions are, trust me, I understand emotions are a little crazy. Trust me. But if I can't handle mine, everybody else can too.
And the reason you're saying that is because you grew up in Iran. You were thrown into Sharia jail for not wearing your hijab or letting your hair come up underneath your hijab and skipping and singing. And then you were sold by your own dad, a much, much, much older man. So again, you have a whole history back there. And what you're saying is if you can go through all this and deal with this and handle all this, then we can all control our emotions as well.
Exactly. It's such a hard spot to be in. Like before it has happened, Brannon, when I came on your show back to back reporting on uprising in Iran, and it was just my heart bleeding for my people who were being killed by the hands of regime. But today, my American side is worried we're going to get involved with this war. My Iranian side is happy, but at the same time worried. My Christian side stands by Israel. So if I can handle all of that, stay level-headed somewhat, report facts, every American should just take a deep breath and realize, regardless of outcome of tomorrow or tonight or a week from today, we are still a nation that needs to survive.
Yeah.
We can't keep allowing every single policy of every single politician breaking us apart and farther from each other. One day we might need to face the enemy for real. And if we're this divided, we're just going to kill each other before the enemy gets here.
Which I think is part of the goal, is to have us divided and in some kind of civil chaos before that. Speaking of politicians, now, I'm pretty strong on my statement that obviously I'm for the Jewish people. I'm for the Jewish state. I mean, I was doing seminars in 2017 and 18 called Holocaust Horizon, warning about the rise of anti-Semitism. I've been teaching Bible prophecy and things like that for a long time, and what God's plan is for the the Jewish people. I've been reminding everybody about the Holocaust and the history and the ideas and the philosophies that created that. I stand with the Jewish people. But as I always say, that doesn't mean I stand with the Israeli government all the time. For Pete's sake, I don't agree with my own government a lot of the time. So I'm for the right of the Jewish people for their land and to defend themselves, right? But partly what I'm a little frustrated with is when I look at guys like Benjamin Netanyahu, who turned his own people over to Pfizer, I think it was, the pharmaceutical companies during the COVID thing is basically lab rats. When I remember seeing that video, I thought, that's got to be AI, that's got to be fake. And then we found out, no, he really said these things. Like, what? I remember my Jewish friend, Dr. Zelenko, coming on here as a Hasidic Jew saying, apparently, Israel wants to finish what the Nazis started with this whole experiment thing. And I'm like, wow, that's a strong statement coming from a Hasidic Jew, right? But he was speaking truth. He's like, what are they doing, right? So I've had real issues with Benjamin for a while. But today, someone put together this compilation. Benjamin Netanyahu hasn't done any of us a favor. And I went all the way back to 2012, where he held up the bomb, picture of the bomb at the UN with the red line, 2012. But it goes back much further than that. This guy has been crying wolf for a long time. Is he just being a politician? What's he doing here? Watch this little montage.
Not stopped. Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year. It could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
David, this is what I'm talking about. So this guy has either been lying to us. I mean, I have to assume he's lying. I mean, I would just have to assume. That's my opinion. I mean, since 1995, he's saying that. When you and I believe from Peter Pry that they already have the bomb. So we're going to go to war to stop them from getting a bomb when they already have a bomb. And we're getting our information from him? I mean, am I wrong to be skeptical? Even though I'm a big supporter of the Jewish people, I question their leader.
No, you're not wrong at all. I mean, Netanyahu, was right to warn of an Iranian bomb back in 95 and later. He initially said Iran might have a bomb by 2000. 2003 is when Peter Pry warned that Iran was 3 months away from, based on where we were in terms of the testing, the centrifuges, the enrichment. He assessed that as a senior CIA official or former official, he assessed that Iran was just 3 months away from developing a nuke, and that was 22 years ago. And not coincidentally, that's when U.S. intelligence is claiming that Iran stopped its nuclear program. So if indeed they stopped their nuclear program, it's very possible because they probably already developed one in 2003. And why would they need to keep developing it if they had already achieved a nuclear weapon status? Potentially. We don't really know for sure. But, U.S. intelligence has been, it's been proven wrong. Virtually in every instance since Pearl Harbor. They failed to predict pretty much everything other than the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So we really can't trust U.S. intelligence assessments. That said, Iran likely has had a nuclear bomb for a decade or thereabouts. Could be less, could be a few years, or it could be a couple decades. Either way, they haven't used it. They've likely had a nuclear weapon, a nuclear arsenal of maybe a dozen or 3 dozen nuclear weapons, much smaller than infinitely smaller than the U.S., many times smaller than Israel, and yet they've been incredibly deterred from using their nuclear weapons in an act of nuclear aggression by far superior nuclear arsenals of the United States and Israel. So if that's the case, they don't really pose much of a nuclear threat to us. If they don't have nuclear weapons, if indeed U.S. intelligence is correct and they don't have a nuclear program, they don't pose a threat to us because they're not on their way to nuclear weapons. And that's what Tulsi Gabbard testified to. And she was entrusted to be Donald Trump's director of national intelligence.
The ambassador to Washington, to the United States from Israel, had this to say about, I guess, something big that's coming Thursday or Friday night that will make the old pager attacks seem like simple. That's what he said. Listen.
We've pulled off a number of surprises. When the dust settles, you're going to see some surprises on Thursday night and Friday that will make the beeper operation almost seem simple. We've pulled off.
Wow. Annie, what do you think that's going to be about?
That has me very curious. Honestly, I can't at the moment think of anything after the last 5 days. By the time we get to Thursday, being it a week, I really can't think of what it could be unless they have a way of, taking out what's left of IRGC personnel of IRGC, considering they are in charge right now. But to be honest, I am drawing a blank as to guessing what could be. But I will agree they have. And if I could add something to what you said, Brannon, and on most of the time, me and you were on the same page. But I would say the way this video was made, I think it would have been a better editorial format if they did it from 98 to today rather than today to 98, because it seems like he's repeating himself. But then, yes, if he's repeating himself from 98 to today, then he's not necessarily manipulating information. He's doing the best to guess. And that being said, now, please know, as you know, Brannon, I disagree with Netanyahu 95% of the time, including what he did during COVID. But when we bring this up, we also should bring up that our own leader, President Trump, has in last 5 days not said anything, and whatever came out on his behalf has been one way or another, one way or another, one way or another, one way or another. So I guess it's just the way leaders work nowadays. They just keep changing what they were saying. Yeah. I figured I should be fair saying, if you're pointing out Netanyahu, now I know the claim, or as Leo said last night, this war was promoted as the goal is to take out the nuke, but let's also give Israeli government, Netanyahu, IDF, the people, give them the grace that they have tolerated bombing and jihadists and blood and absolutely life with no predictability, including planning a simple wedding could be canceled because they have to go into their, bomb shelters for 46 years. So even if there is no nuclear bomb, which I think it is, and even if IDF doesn't get the nuclear facilities, I'm okay with it. Did they put a wrong banner on the reasoning behind their war? Maybe. But at least they're doing the entire world a favor by doing what they're doing.
And my issue, too, as you know, Annie, is our schizophrenia here with the foreign policy versus domestic policy. Iran's an existential threat to Israel. They need to respond, let them respond. But yet, we now may go get help to them, give help to them. But we have the same existential threat here, as I've said, with some of these mosques and imams talking about overthrowing us and death to America. And they're right here. And our own government's funding some of them, for Pete's sake, through NGOs and other things. So we've got to get on the same page with the threats facing us here, and then, deal with the threats overseas if necessary. But I don't want to see us with boots on the ground or involved, as I've said again. Sell them equipment, give them some intelligence. But we got a lot to take care of here at home. Come back, we'll wrap it up and get to Givon Fleet. Don't go away.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisol collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
Folks, this is a legitimate product. I take it every day. Melissa takes it every day. We've been taking it since late 2023. 80 clinical trials behind it. Powerful elixir, real science. I hope you'll check it out. Great way, I think, to support your health and this program at the same time. melissahousebg.com. Excuse me, melissahousebg.com. All right, we're going to wrap here and get ready to go to Xi Van Fleet, who was born and raised in China, to see what she thinks China is going to do when it comes to all of this with Iran. And then we'll check in with Nick Helsher as well. And then Chris Martenson on economics and where all this is going on a global scale. Before we wrap here, guys, let me ask you, Annie, is this video, do you know about this video here? And is the translation what I'm being told it is? Listen. What are they saying, Annie?
The first chant is they're mocking Khamenei in bunker, hiding. And then after that, they're matching the rhythm of the car honks with death to dictator. So I was laughing. The first part was very funny.
So many people in Iran are ready to be free.
Yes, and that's the thing. Again, not to constantly defend Bibi Netanyahu, but this morning he did an interview on Channel 14 of Israel, and he said, "I can guarantee you, 80% of Iranians are ready to be done with this regime." And you've heard me give that number on your show before, 75 to 80%. He's really informed as to what people want, and on that I respect. And yes, 80% of people are done. They're ready. And it's not just they're done. Since your radio until now, I released another Substack. A Nation Calls, A Sun Answers. The return of the sun, referring to Crown Prince Pahlavi, that when he released his video today of literally openly telling people there's a plan, you just go ahead and do the uprising, we got the rest of it covered. They're not just done with the regime. They're done with the regime, and they are ready for they already voted for the next government. This is as stable as it's gonna get for either a color revolution, for a coup d'etat, or an uprising by people taking advantage of the move made by Israel. And that's why I keep saying, even if we do end up, and again, I want to be very respectful. I have said it. I have never served in any department. I don't have any technical experience when it comes to war and policies and politics. However, Brannon, in the last 5 days, I have not been wrong in a single what's next. And on that, I can guarantee you, even if we do get involved, which I hope we don't, this is not a war you've seen with Afghanistan, Syria, or Iraq. I guarantee you. It's not going to end up there. Maybe it takes itself elsewhere, but I guarantee you we're not going to be in Iran for 20 years and our soldiers are not going to be killed by hands of Iranians. I can guarantee you that.
David, in conclusion, if President Trump says, look, guys, I'm going to send in a couple bombers, we're going to take out this nuclear facility. I said they couldn't have a nuclear weapon. I meant it. We're going to go in, we're going to take that out, and that's it. We're not going to get involved beyond that. Does life go on? Or does that take it to a next level? does Russia and North Korea and China decide, yeah, this is not worth it, and stay on the sidelines, and life goes on, and we're all like, that worked out pretty well, and this is all mute, or not?
Well, if the U.S. bombs Iran, it does pose an existential threat, of escalation, uncontrolled escalation, as Russia has warned, to the U.S. However, a more limited strike against just one target, maybe we pre-announce it. This is like one and done. Maybe we could get away with that. I don't think that's what Trump's envisioning. I think, what he's talking about is a massive bombing campaign of 1 to 3 weeks. In that instance, the risks are much, much higher. I don't see that Iran would go to nuclear escalation off the bat. In fact, I don't think that they'd likely go to nuclear escalation at all. I do think that there's probably the biggest risk to the U.S. would be a massive cyber attack on the U.S. homeland that could really shut down our country almost as effectively as a super EMP attack. Not quite, but could have the same devastating consequences. Mass starvation, loss of power for months, if not permanently. We don't really know. We know that Iran has substantial cyber offensive capabilities, not on par with the U.S., Russia, or China, or North Korea, but probably pretty close.
Well, speaking of North Korea, we just see the Secretary of Russia's Security Council arriving in North Korea at the orders of Putin. That was an unannounced trip, I'm told.
Yeah, I mean, all the countries are consulting. I mean, Trump had meetings that I heard with Russia and China earlier today in terms of quick meetings to discuss perhaps what he's considering and try to gauge with their reactions and see how vehement they are against it. Hopefully that put a little bit of fear of God in him, and they were really forceful in saying that this could lead to, World War III, because he just doesn't seem to have a good grasp of reality at this point. I've praised Trump pretty much, his entire presidency, but, this is a turning point for me. If he follows through with this and takes us to World War III, he's going to have a really poor presidential legacy minimally, and as we discussed earlier on the phone, we could see a massive rejection of the Republican Party that could be transformational, where the Democrats are a permanent majority because he decided he wanted to be a war president and go to war for Israel against U.S. national security interests.
Wow.
Brannon, can I quickly ask a question?
Yes.
What would happen, because I know we're concentrating on Israel trying to drag U.S. into the war, but what are the possibilities that Iran might attack one of our bases or go after our troops to drag U.S. into the war because he's getting signals from Russia and China to drag U.S. into the war? What would be the scenario then?
Is that a question for me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Okay. So I don't think Russia or China, well, I think China certainly wants the U.S. and Iran in a full-scale war. I don't think Russia does. But there was a report earlier today, unconfirmed, that 3 Iranian missiles had hit a U.S. base in northeast Syria. And I was concerned that Trump might use that as a pretext to start bombing Iran. I don't know if that's been fully verified. I'd have to check it out. But yeah, certainly there's a risk that China could encourage Iran to follow up on its threat to engage U.S. military forces in the region directly. Because really, the U.S. is a participant in the war. I mean, Trump has all but declared war. He's called for maybe the assassination. He's threatened directly, repeatedly, the assassination of Ayatollah Khamenei. Obviously, I'd love to see Khamenei dead, but what's the Iranian response going to be to that? And now, of course, he's not even the supreme leader. I guess it sounds like he's abdicated to the IRGC for the duration of the conflict. So. The IRGC is allowed to use nuclear weapons against the U.S. or Israel if they so choose. But it's a very, very dangerous situation. There's forces, allies on both sides that are potentially urging, a resumption of the conflict. Trump's not being a peacemaker. He's not being a deal maker. He's not being willing to negotiate with Iran on the nuke deal. And he doesn't even seem to care. He really is just very focused on the military destruction of Iranian nuclear facilities. And by all appearances, it appears that he's going to follow through on those threats, but we just won't know until later. And the last thing I want to say is this week may be remembered as the start of World War III, or it may be remembered as a week in which the U.S. pulled back from World War III, and World War III was averted. And it's all in Trump's hands and God's hands now.
Wow, that's why we should all be praying. dpine.substack.com, dpyne.substack.com. And then Annie is liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.com, and she has liveuptofreedom.substack.com. She also, by the way, has this beautiful website right here, and it is LUTFstudio.com. It's the acronym for Live Up to Freedom. LUTFstudio.com. And these are all things made by Annie herself. She's a very gifted artist, and she makes these herself, so you can check them out. Helps her fund what she's doing in the hours she spends doing research as well. LUTFstudio.com. Guys, thanks for being with us tonight, as always.
Thank you, Brannon.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, David. Joining me now is Van Fleet. She was born and raised in China. She escaped, and I want to see what she thinks about what China might be doing. We also got some great news in the last 24 hours from the FBI director, Kash Patel. He tweeted this out. The FBI has located documents which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 U.S. election, including allegations of interference by the Chinese Communist Party. I have immediately declassified the material and turned the documents over to the Chairman Grassley, for further review. That would be Charles Grassley, U.S. Senator from Iowa. By the way, I noticed a while ago we kept saying IRGC. I want to apologize for not stopping and explaining. That stands for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. We used that today on radio without defining it, and someone emailed and said, what is the IRGC? So again, I apologize. We are always trying, like using CCP there, and saying that's the Chinese Communist Party, because we're adding a lot of new people. And a lot of new people are waking up, and they're trying to catch up, and we don't want them left behind with all the acronyms. So CCP obviously is the Chinese Communist Party. IRGC is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. But this is great news from Kash Patel, because now he's showing what many of us thought, what many were saying, that the CCP was indeed involved in ballots and I guess creating fake driver's license to be involved in the election. Isn't that what John Ratcliffe, didn't he tell us that? Isn't he now the CIA director? But didn't he tell us back then that China was involved in messing with the elections in 2020? Yeah, I remember that bulletin, don't you? Joining me now is Van Fleet. Great to see you again. Last time you were with us, we were at the museum there in D.C. that deals with all the 500 million that the communists have killed. And
yes,
we got a great response from that. Thank you for being back with us tonight.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So, what do you know, there's a military and economic alliance between Iran and Russia, and China, North Korea. What do you think Iran will do if America does get more involved or begins to be involved in bombing strikes and runs in Iran? What do you think China is likely to do? Or how do you think China may be encouraging this to get America involved and then maybe use it to make a move on Taiwan, where about 90% of our chips currently come from? So I know I called you yesterday and I asked you to think through it all and then come give us an analysis. The floor is yours. What do you think?
Oh, I don't have really much idea what China would do or want to do, but I can tell you something about my reaction to what China is thinking right now. And I think they're terrified. They're watching closely, and they did one thing though today, and the report said that they had two big cargo flights to Tehran.
Two big cargo flights. Let me make sure my audience understood you with your beautiful accent there. Two large cargo flights from China to Tehran. So you're hearing that too?
Yeah. And I think so far the discussion about the Israel-Iran conflict, and not many people talk about China. And I think this is important. That I'm so glad you asked me to come here to share my opinion. I really just only can say this is my opinion, my own analysis, if I can call it. Everything that is going on in the Middle East. All these terrorist activities targeted not just on Israel, but the United States. China is behind it. And China is behind Iran. And Iran is China's extension to the Middle East. And that's very, very important. And I think China is now terrified. Why? I think one important thing they see is that a war like this, it's not the soldiers who die first. It's the rulers, it's the leaders. And also they see that when things happened in a totalitarian regime like Iran, which is what China is, people rise up. And now we heard that Elon Musk provided Starlink to Tehran. Can you imagine that happening in China? That people all of a sudden can see what's really going on beyond the censorship. And that's what they terrified. And the people will rise up and the dictators go first. They get eliminated first. So I think for this, they have to think not just twice, 3 times, more 4 times before they make the move to take Taiwan. I think that's the most important thing. And I think that gives them a lesson.
So where do you think China is on their timetable when it comes to Taiwan? Do you think it's when America gets distracted in a war in the Middle East, thus 2025? Or is it 2026? Or has been said 2027? Would they move their timetable up? Are they even in an economic position to do that right now?
Well, we don't know. No one really knows, but they do want America to be distracted. They like the war going on in Europe between Russia and Ukraine, and they have been supporting Russia and giving all sorts of support through weapons and even troops. They even put troops there. So they want to keep America busy in different conflicts so that they can focus on their really important goal is to take Taiwan. I don't know whether when and whether they will do it, but that is on the table. That's absolutely on the table. And I think what's going on in Iran now will make them really, really think twice.
What else are you hearing? Anything else that, since we last visited in Washington, D.C. about a month ago now, that you want to tell our audience before you go tonight?
Well, I just want to, now there's really a lot of disagreement among MAGA, right? There are people that want us to go into and join the war. And there are some said, no, we should not have nothing to do with it. And I'm torn. I don't want America to get into another war, but I also understand the danger of the regime. And this is important, that both Iran and China are theocracy. China is run and ruled by Marxism, and Tehran or Iran is by Islamism. And they are both dangerous. And if we have this, whatever you call it, isolationist, and it can be dangerous because the history shows when America not engage, sometimes it can be very dangerous. And that's what happened in the 20s and the 30s. That is the time period from President Harding and Coolidge to Hoover. And America just decided they were just going to focus on America. They're not going to get involved. And what they missed is that while they were isolate themselves, Soviet Union didn't. That's how Soviet Union infiltrated China and helped the founding the CCP, which is 1921. And today, CCP is our #1 threat. So that's something we have to keep in mind.
Indeed.
And I just read.
Hold right there. I'm going to hold you over. Hold right there. Hold right there. I'm going to hold you over. I'll hold you over so the music, because the computer's going to take it away. Hold you over. We'll be right back. And then Nick Helsher will join us. Don't go away.
Looking for a trusted source to understand today's world through a Christian worldview? Worldview Tube is built on the 35 years of worldview books, columns, research, and high-profile interviews of Brannon Howse. Want to know more about Worldview Tube, its founder, history, team, and mission? Visit worldviewtube.com/about. That's worldviewtube.com/about. Worldview Tube is your source for understanding the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com. And welcome back. Glad you were with us. I have my satellite phone. I got it from Tina at Worldview Talk, the CEO of Worldview Talk. You can get one as well. You can get solar generators. I have the Delta Echo 400. You can get the bulletproof backpack. I have one right there in front of that camera that I'm looking at right now. Literally, that thing is big. And you can always use it as a little bit of a shield. It has been tested. It has been tested. It's a bulletproof backpack. They have so many things there at Worldview Talk. I highly recommend that website to you, worldviewtalk.com. I was just told during that break that somebody just bought 6 of these Israeli-made gas masks. Yeah, I have these. I have one for every family member. I also have some for the guys in the control room. I don't know what the times will hold. I do remember there was even a train derailment, remember, in Palestine, Ohio. And if you had to get out into that, the wind was blowing your direction, you had to get out of town, you're probably going to want to don one of these to get out of town, right? So we have all kinds of things. We have freeze-dried food. I have about a 2-year supply for my family because if I need to, I want to barter with it. We have all kinds of supplies there at worldviewstore.com. It's not a joke, and you don't have to buy it from us, but I urge you to be prepared. Be prepared, folks. But if you do buy from us, it does help our budget. We got to bring in about $40,000 a month to keep this network going. And that doesn't count my salary. That's just my operational costs, folks. So we do appreciate you doing business with us when you can. But if you want to buy it from someone else, go ahead. I would just suggest you get these things. But we do have a website we put together in 2016 because our audience asked for it. Like, well, what do you have? What did you get? Where'd you get it? I said, well, we'll just build a website and work with the companies we bought stuff with. So we did. It's there, worldviewstore.com. Xi Van Fleet joins me, author of Mao's America. She survived the Mao Revolution and escaped from China and has made her home here. And she's warning Americans about too many similarities between what she saw in her home country and what she's seeing now. You mentioned that we got to stay ever vigilant. I think Lenin said before he died, we'll take Eastern Europe. We'll take a big chunk of Asia, Eastern Europe. We'll surround the United States, and then we'll collapse it from within. And I think a lot of that's come true as communism has spread. Of course, people like John Wayne, Jimmy Stewart, Ronald Reagan, so many tried warning about this, during the 70s, 60s, and 70s, and they got called all kinds of, horrific names. But reality is, you said two groups, the Islamist and the Marxist, the red-green axis, they are working to collapse us from within. And I give it all the time, but I want people to memorize it. Carlos the Jackal, a terrorist, a jihadist, said, only a coalition of the Islamists and the Marxists can bring down America. I'm very concerned that we're not paying attention to that here. We're paying attention to what Iran is doing, their Islamic regime, what they want, death to America, death to the Jews, kill the Christians, kill them, right? But we're spending all this money now putting military assets into the region, but yet we have NGOs in our own government funding some of these mosques and these communist groups We're funding them ourselves, and they're not over there. They're right here. Isn't that what you've been warning about? That these groups are right
That's
here
exactly
on our
what I'm
homeland?
warning. Yes. Yeah. It's the enemies within.
Yeah.
And it's now just look what's going on now. And I just saw a tweet from a congresswoman, a Democrat, of course, and they're just accusing Trump for hurting these civilians. Because Trump said, get out of Tehran. He wants to protect the civilians, but that is what we are having. So they attack Trump for his tariff war against China, against CCP. And they absolutely, anything Trump does, they're against. And many times they ended up siding with CCP, with Iran, with Hamas, with illegals. And that's really the situation now. It's the enemies within.
And you believe that the CCP is behind a lot of these riots we're seeing, right? That's CCP money? Is that CCP money?
Yes, absolutely. And there's a report. Now I can't remember his name. Singham?
Singham.
And he's a billionaire.
Singham. Singham.
Yeah, Singham. Yeah, yes. And he made his fortune in China. He's absolutely 100% CCP's agent.
He lives in Shanghai. He lives there right now in Shanghai.
Absolutely. And the news before you brought me in is that CCP is involved in the 2020 election. Absolutely. Absolutely. They were printing. I knew it in 2020 because there was a report within the WeChat, it's the Chinese social media, about printing, about some local printing shop got a order from the US to print the ballots. And so, but no one reported. So it's an old news for us. And also, where do you think that the mail ballot thing came from? From the COVID. Who brought the COVID to us? It's CCP. You think it's just happened that time? I don't believe it. I absolutely don't believe it. I think its time is absolutely planned. And the goal is to interfere and stop Trump from winning. CCP is behind everything. Absolutely everything, and domestically or internationally, CCP is behind all the conflict, all the riots, all the social unrest. You can find the CCP. That's how bad CCP is. So when we talk about Iran, never forget the CCP.
100%. Mao's America, my friend Xi Van Fleet. Can they get I know they can. They get the book at Amazon. Just go there, type in Mao's America and order it right up. Oh, great seeing you again. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have you.
Goodbye.
We're gonna have you back. We're gonna have you back. Xi Van Fleet. She was just with us in D.C. We were at the Anti-Communist Museum. Did you know there's an Anti-Communist Museum? Well, there is. Very educational, and you should go. It's not a very big museum. It should be much bigger. They need the funding to make it bigger. But it was very educational, and they were gracious to us. They let us bring in our cameras and set up and interview her there, and we're going to be having her back. All right, joining me now is Nick Helsher. He is the director of the McCullough Foundation, Tennessee Funeral Directors. That's right here in my home state. Tennessee Funeral Directors. Their association confirms white fibrous clots are real and prevalent. I bet you that has something to do with that mRNA COVID shot. What you bet? Nick, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that's in my home state of Tennessee here. Tell me about these white fibrous clots.
Yeah, well, former U.S. Air Force Major Tom Haviland actually has been conducting global embalmer surveys for the past 3 years. And he has identified among all the embalmers across the world that a majority are in fact seeing these white fibrous clots since 2021, since the mRNA injections rolled out. And most recently at that meeting, at that Funeral Directors Association meeting, he confirmed in person with all these embalmers that they do indeed see these white fibrous clots. And so it's not just on paper in these surveys, it is in person. And they are concerned. The embalmers don't know what they are, but recent an in-depth analysis over the past few years by Dr. Kevin McCairn and his team has identified that these are likely amyloidogenic, which means these are likely misfolded proteins that have the potential to be infectious, which means that they are exert prion-like activities in that they may be propagating throughout the body. And as one protein misfolds, it can induce other healthy proteins to also misfold. And that's what appears to be what these long clots are. They're not blood. It is a result of the modified spike protein that has not only been released from the biolabs in Wuhan and likely also in America, but also from the mRNA injections themselves.
Let's talk about some good news tonight. God forbid we have some good news, right, Logan? We need some. Robert F. Kennedy. Yeah, we do. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He just cleaned house. What did he just do?
Yeah, RFK just wiped out, completely wiped out, hit the reset button on the ACIP panel. They've been compromised since the 90s. That was confirmed in a...
What is that panel? That's who decides the vaccine schedule and what kids get?
Yeah. They're the ones who so when you see like the CDC recommended immunization schedule, ACIP's the one who recommends what vaccines people should get. So it's a breath of fresh air that they've been wiped off. All these compromised people, all 17 of them, now with people that appear to be much more not captured at all by the biopharmaceutical complex. So we should see a positive change there. But unfortunately, we do still see the FDA as being compromised in their recent approval of death spike, or in other words, next spike. But next means death in Latin.
Wow. Okay. How about this one? 4 independent sources confirm that Pfizer, Moderna, mRNA can integrate in the human genome. What does that mean for us lay people?
Right. So when the mRNA goes in to your body, when it goes into the cell, this has now been identified in the test tube to integrate into your DNA. So basically, it'll turn into DNA and just basically be a part of you forever. And that's what appears to be the case, not only from the study by Alden and colleagues that showed it in a human liver cell line in the test tube, but also now we do see it in real-world patient data. The InModia lab in Germany has detected Pfizer mRNA, Moderna mRNA, SV40, so this DNA contamination, as well as spike years later, years after vaccination, in deceased subjects' tissues. And then we have Neo7 Bioscience in collaboration with University of North Texas has identified very, very bad molecular signatures, which are in vaccinated individuals that are indicative of a persistence of this mRNA and reverse transcription. And so the data is pouring out now. It is definitely possible. We do believe that in some individuals, this Pfizer or Moderna mRNA is basically being integrated into their own genomes.
Oh, what does that mean for them to go, if they're young enough to go on and fertile enough to go on and have children? Does that impact the DNA? Are they passing something on?
Yeah, we're not sure at the moment. Testing needs to be done, but it is a possibility that this DNA can end up in the offspring, and this offspring will be producing this toxic Wuhan spike protein as well. We hope that's not the case, but it very well may be. Testing is needed.
Look at this. This is the Brown Institute. Top FDA official admits she refused the COVID-19 vaccine while pregnant. Wait a minute. Did she come out and tell everybody that? While the FDA was pushing it on pregnant women, she was there. Did she tell everybody, oh, by the way, I'm not getting it while I'm pregnant? Did she do that, Nick?
No, she didn't. She failed to do her job as a public servant in the FDA to protect the population. She protected herself, right, and her own child. But it appears she could care less about the thousands of pregnant Americans that she recommended still and didn't say anything for them to still get the mRNA injections, knowing well that they were dangerous. And so this is a very bad thing. All these people.
Is she
that
sorry about
recommended-
it? Is she out speaking about it and saying, "Hey, I made a mistake. I didn't do this"? Is she repenting of this or not?
No, she is not. At least not that I'm aware of. I have not seen her repenting, nor any of the others that have recommended nonsense and likely resulted in large numbers of deaths due to this campaign.
Wow. But she does have concerns, according to this article. Concerns about the mRNA safety. Says she had no reason to be cautious. Quote, it was unknown at the time what the biodistribution patterns of those products were. That was my primary concern. And that exposure I was very concerned about, end quote. She wanted to say about materials that don't exist in nature, there's a lot of unknowns, end quote. She warned that unintended toxic effects, especially in vulnerable populations like pregnant women, could not be ignored. Quote, regardless of their medical product or the intervention, there's always going to be the need to evaluate both the intended outcomes and the unintended consequences, end quote, she cautioned. She said concerns echoed those raised in 2021 by the Canadian immunologist Dr. Graham Brittle, who first exposed the internal documents from Japan's regulatory agency showing that these LNPs didn't remain at the injection site but traveled throughout the body and accumulated in organs, including ovaries, liver, spleen, and bone marrow. At the time, Brittle's warnings were aggressively dismissed. Well, weren't a lot of warnings back then, right, Nick?
No, there weren't any warnings at all from our regulatory agencies.
But there were warnings by people like Dr. Judy Mikovich and a lot of other folks out there in the world. Even RFK Jr. had been out there warning about these so-called vaccines a long time, but they were all mocked. Right?
Yeah. Oh, many people were warning, but it was all kind of contained into alternative media. It was censored off of formerly Twitter, right? It was censored off of Meta platforms, and so it was hard to get access to that info. But concerns were raised, but our regulatory agencies ignored all of them, intentionally hid concerns, and just failed completely to do their duties.
Any other big story you want to tell our audience about that you're covering? Because, by the way, folks, he's got a website, thefocalpoints.com, thefocalpoints.com. Anything else you want to tell us about?
Yes. Well, we see lion's mane there. Lion's mane is a very interesting mushroom, and it's been shown to increase BDNF, it's called, and nerve growth factor, NGF, in humans, and in experimental models. And so what that means is this can actually promote neuron growth, promote brain growth, and this is showing promise in reversing neurodegenerative diseases, which now affect 43% of the global population, and is now being fueled by the neurotoxic mRNA injections. And so we do need to find methods to start reversing this brain damage. And that is one natural compound, one very safe compound that does show promise in reversing this damage. But also, one more story is glyphosate, right? What's in Roundup, right? The world's most used weed killer. A study in rats, they exposed the rats to glyphosate at so-called safe levels allowed by our regulatory agencies over the period of 2 years. And the rats developed over 10 different types of cancer in all different organ systems, in their bone, in their brain, everywhere. And so they kind of just showed that indeed Roundup, all these pesticides, or particularly glyphosate-based herbicides, are indeed carcinogenic. It corroborates human data. And so these should be banned, right?
Absolutely.
People shouldn't be spraying this stuff, and eat organic if you can. Don't consume these toxins.
Thefocalpoints.com, thefocalpoints.com. Nick Helsher. Nick, as always, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
When we come back, we'll be joined by Chris Martinson, great guy on economics. Where is everything going economically? By the way, make sure you get your medical emergency kit. He works with Dr. Peter McCullough. Dr. McCullough has spoken for us many times, been a guest here many times. The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHousebg.com. We're not changing courses now. We are who we are. We're committed to the truth that we are committed to. Worldview Tube is a broadcast network that I started in 2006, but it's based on my 35 years as an author and speaker and commentator. Worldview Tube is here to defend the truth of a Christian worldview. And we believe we can apply it to all areas of life, like law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, major issues.
At worldviewtube.com, we provide news from around the globe that isn't typically covered by mainstream media. Visit worldviewtube.com to watch our experts and analysts discuss all your favorite topics on our 24/7 live stream. Explore our extensive collection of unfiltered and uncensored content from 35 years of production. Go to worldviewtube.com today. Also find us on all of these major platforms and download our Worldview Tube mobile app.
All right. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Before we go to a pre-recorded interview I did with Chris Martenson on economics. Yeah, we got a new format here. We're doing breaks. I know someone complained, Logan told me. But hey, guess what? We weren't bringing enough support. And we said if we didn't bring in enough support, we'd have to go to more commercial breaks or go to commercial breaks. So we tried that, and now we're going to have to do more commercial breaks. That's just the way it is. $40,000 a month, folks, we got to bring in just to cover the cost of operating the network. So there you go. Let's see. I got a care package. I'll just use his first name. He's from Iowa. Gerald. Gerald sent me a package today. Now, Gerald, you here on radio know that I love history, and we're launching very soon maybe this week, our history channel. I say maybe this week because it all has to do with computers and IT people and cron running or Chrome running and this and that's got to knocking out cache and things I don't understand. And so things get delayed. But very soon we'll be launching a history channel because I love history and a lot of you love history. And we filmed some great stuff in DC. We've had our documentary come out about the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. Maybe you saw that when we aired it. We'll be airing it again. I just finished this week the script on, writing the script on the TV special we're doing on the home of Robert E. Lee, General Lee. So we'll be producing that soon. So we're going to have a history channel as well at worldviewtube.com. You guys know I love history, right? So the word got out, because I put it out, that if you have any old headlines, newspapers, send them to me. I'll frame them. Our control room is loaded with framed and matted historic papers. I have more to frame, like John Dillinger being killed, all kinds of stuff. Cool stuff. Well, a gentleman sent me a package today. That's a cover. That's a cool cover. Now, some of you probably have that one. That's not as old, but that's now almost 25 years old, right? So there you go. It's 24 years old, I guess, this fall. Logan had never seen it. So he's like, hey, that's interesting. And this was a cool one. One Giant Leap. Now, if you believe we actually went to the moon, which I think we did. I don't know. I think we did. 1969 is a great year. It's the year I was born. So he sent me the Dallas Morning News, August 13th, 1969. That's pretty cool. So I wanted to thank Gerald from Iowa for sending that to me. Of course, any of you that have those historic documents that you don't want, you can always send them my way. Our address is on our website at worldviewfoundation.com. We frame a lot of those, put them in our control room, and it's really fun to go in the control room, and they're from the top of the ceiling all the way down to the floor. And people love to stand there and look at all that. They don't know what they want to look at first. Do they want to look at all this amazing studio control room equipment, all these lights and buttons? Or do they look at the newsprints that are all framed? And it's about 50-50. Some go right to the shiny buttons they're flashing. Others, they're like, they don't care. They don't understand it anyway. But they love those historical documents. It's fun to show those people that and to have those. So thank you, Gerald. Appreciate that. All right. Now oh, by the way, don't forget about our fall conference coming up, October 3rd and 4th. That's a Friday night and a Saturday. And it's our 22nd annual national conference. We'll have with us this year Sidney Powell, Alex Newman, Gordon Chang, Andy Woods, Hadia, Chris Mitchell. He's from Chris Martinson, who I'm about to have on. I taped with yesterday. Mark Mitchell, who called me today. Chit chat with Rasmussen. What a lineup. Dr. Lana, what a lineup we're going to have. We only have seating for 350 people. You can be there with us. It's a beautiful, beautiful auditorium in Collierville, Tennessee, outside of Memphis. Who was trashing on our beloved Bluff City today? Stephen A. Smith. Oh, he's running for president, is he? Well, maybe he can help with the problem. Well, Logan said Stephen A. Smith was trashing on our beloved Bluff City today. So he said, you got to see this. So I listened, I watched. Apparently some of the NBA players don't want to come to Memphis. I don't understand. You don't live in Orange Mound, do they? Do those boys not get paid enough? Do they have to live in Orange Mound and Fraser? No, I think they can live in Collierville and Germantown, which a lot of them do, right? Yeah, a lot of them live in Germantown and Collierville, and they're fine. But he acted like they're going to have to live in Fraser or Orange Mound. What's another bad area, Logan? Those are the two everyone talks about. But that's like going into the really, really, really bad hood. You don't do that. That's where the problems are. A lot of you have come to Memphis. You've gone to the Peabody, to Beale Street. You know, everything's fine. You went down there for a Grizzly game not too long ago. I even let you take your mother. I didn't go, but I let you take your mother, and if I thought it was dangerous, I wouldn't let her go. Oh, yeah, you don't want to go to Raleigh. Stay out of Raleigh. Stay out of Raleigh. Stay out of Orange Mound. Stay out of Fraser. You're fine. Come on, Stephen. Whitehaven. Stay out of Whitehaven. Yeah. If I name off too many more places, they're going to think it's the whole cotton-picking town. But it's really not. These are the trouble areas everybody knows to stay out of. So what I'm saying is don't let Stephen A. Smith scare you from coming to our national conference. We're in Collierville. We're not in Memphis. We're in Collierville, where we have a very good relationship with the police. I think my wife is even playing at the police chief's house tonight, is with his wife and a bunch of others playing. What are they playing, Logan? Bungo? Bungo? Never heard of it. I mean, I've heard of it, don't know it, never played it. So we have a great relationship with our police chief. We have a great relationship with our police officers. A couple of them were squad car guys, and now they're detectives. They traveled with us for years, doing security and driving with us. So our police department likes us. We like them. We support our local police, kind of like that great movie with James Garner, Support Your Local Sheriff. Remember that movie? That was 1969, I think. Well, we support our local police, and they take care of us. We take care of them. So you'll be fine. Come to Collierville. Just stay out of Orange Mound. And if you're over in Orange Mound or Fraser, you're over there probably looking for trouble. That's what I got to say. But don't let these people scare you away. It's like saying, don't ever go to Kansas City. Don't ever go to St. Louis. That's stupid. Of course you go to Kansas City. You just stay in Johnson County. He's like, wow, he knows his counties and his cities, doesn't he, Logan? So anyway, there you go. So come join us. Don't believe all the hype. Fly in. It's a nice airport, remodeled. Hop on the interstate. Come over here. Stay in the hotel. It'll be awesome, right? There you go. And we will have security as well. We don't need it, but we'll have it. Just like we got security when we had our Wisconsin conference. We didn't really need it. We had 1,000 people there, and I paid for the security because I want to be smart. But it'll be good. It'll be fine. You'll enjoy it. So check it out, worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. All right. Now, with that said, one of our speakers is going to be Chris Martinson, and I just recorded this interview with him yesterday about our economy and where we're going. Watch this. Joining me now is Chris Martinson with Peak Prosperity. He, by the way, is going to be a keynote speaker at our 22nd annual national conference taking place this October 3rd and 4th. 30 minutes outside of Memphis, Tennessee, in the Mid-South. You can get full details at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. He joins us now. Chris, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
It's a real pleasure to be back with you, all your followers and listeners here.
Thank you, Chris.
Quite a time. Quite a time to be alive.
Well, let's talk about where we're going as a nation. World War III, China, Russia, Ukraine, Iran, Israel. It's all heating up. BRICS banking system. What is one to think from an economic standpoint when all this is going on? What is coming economically? I know you're watching the trends and you have some ideas, and you're kind of known for many things, but peak prosperity economics is one of the things. That's how I know you from Jim Pavlos. Is that his name, Jim Pavlov? From
Puplava.
What? Puplava? Puplava. That's how I'd known you for 20 plus years. About 20 years, probably. Close to 20 years from that. So I know economics is a big area you cover. What's the average American, the average investor? And of course, we have people watching us all over the world. What do they think about these economic times?
Well, the vibe, whether we're talking to high-level sophisticated financiers or retirees who used to work for the grid in Ohio, a lot of people are nervous. They sense that something is not quite right. I've heard these markets described lately as kayfabe, right? It's a fake wrestling match, right? So let's take today, for example. Here we are. We're talking on Monday, June 16th. All this weekend, we saw hypersonic missile launches from Iran back into Tel Aviv, Haifa. We saw Israel attacking even energy assets in Iran. So obviously, this should create some uncertainty. So oil opens up last night, $2 or $3, immediately gets sold all day. I wake up this morning, it's down $3. This is not a real market anymore. There are people who control the markets now, I believe. It's just as much as MSNBC controls the narrative on their channel. It's too, I hope this isn't too shocking. There are people out there who don't want actual price discovery because they think it's going to send the wrong message. They've done this with gold and silver for years and years. And I think they're doing it with other markets now, too. That's the world we live in. And unfortunately, I have about as much faith in markets like that, Brennan, as I do Soviet crop reports. Markets need to be free. They need to send out price signals. Buyers and sellers should set that price, not what they're called non-economic players, central banks, setting prices because, they just wouldn't want the wrong idea going out that maybe people are nervous right now. But that's what the markets should be telegraphing, not supreme calm. And that's where we're at. And so a lot of people are nervous about that. And I think rightly so.
Do you think gold's going to keep going higher or not?
Oh, absolutely it is. Absolutely. Look, gold is sending out a signal that they've worked very hard to contain for many decades. And now they're keeping it as much in check as they possibly can. But every single piece of data I'm getting says the West continues to sort of sell gold. The East, mainly China, continues to buy gold, and a lot. So it's all ending up in China. We know there's going to be a new kid on the block at some point in time. We know there's going to be a new competitor to the dollar. We know that China's going to have a hand in that. And obviously, whoever backs that currency with something tangible is going to, I think, have a viable competitor to the dollar. That's the great game that's unfolding right now. And gosh, I wish I could tell you it was going well, but it's starting to look it's looking a little random on both the domestic and the international fronts right now.
Yeah, indeed it is. Indeed it is. So, Chris, let's talk about the Middle East and all that's happening there. Do you see this impacting BRICS at all, the BRICS banking system?
Well, absolutely. So not just that, but look at what just happened. Let me rewind a tiny bit. I don't know. It's probably 8-9 years ago. Putin came out to the world and said, look, whether presidents in the United States come or go, there's sort of this permanent bureaucracy. He just repeated this about 2 years ago. And he said, look, we don't think the West and the United States particularly is what he called agreement capable. That means you make an agreement and you keep it. And so we saw that even Angela Merkel of Germany, former leader, came out and said, yeah, we put these Minsk agreements in place, but we didn't have any intention of abiding by these agreements. They were just to give Ukraine time to rearm and get ready for war with Russia. So Russia doesn't consider us agreement capable, and China increasingly doesn't see us as agreement capable, and that's a problem. And so now let's fast forward. Trump was talking and in direct talks with Iran. Iran had signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the nuclear NPT. They'd also allowed International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA inspectors into their country. They had full access to look at all their nuclear programs. Everybody was in agreement that they weren't working on a nuclear bomb. We had Tulsi Gabbard say, hey, all 18 of our intelligence agencies, same thing. They're not really working on anything. Trump says, let's continue the negotiations. They think they're going into a negotiation later that weekend. And then on that Friday night, Israel bombs them. Trump first said, I didn't know about that. Then I guess that didn't sit right. So what did we hear yesterday? He said, oh, yeah, I knew all about that. I knew the timing. So that tells the whole world that Trump can't be negotiated with. I mean, you might negotiate, but he might just decide to tell you he's negotiating, but secretly know that you're about to get bombed instead. These sorts of things, Brennan, are exceedingly disruptive to international relations.
Is Donald Trump's star fading a little bit here? And is he really is he really a moderate negotiator if he cut a 10-year mineral rights deal with Ukraine, which really means a security package in part, I guess. And then he's also, sitting there cutting deals in the Middle East with one Arab nation after another, I guess, coming back from the Middle East with like $1 trillion. Well, how does that, isn't he again biased to what's going on in the Middle East? Is in other words, he being controlled by the almighty dollar through this? Saying things like, don't take out Khamenei, don't let him die, do that to him. And I think Israel's saying, we're going to do what we got to do. And the people of Iran, they want freedom. They want freedom. They want this regime gone. They want him gone. So, I mean, how can Trump be a neutral negotiator in any of these crises when he's already sided with the Arab world and taken a bunch of their money, and he is sided with Ukraine by taking a 10-year mineral rights deal?
I think you have to trust that people in that position are going to be taking a very long-term view. Look, the Middle East has never been a place of great quiet, It has a long and storied tradition of not just two major sects of Islam, Shia and Sunni, warring, but subsects within that. We've got different sort of tribal elements. We've got a very volatile mix over there. And by the way, it was under Jimmy Carter that this whole doctrine came out, which said, we're going to be the world's policeman, but we got to make sure that oil continues to flow from that region. Now, this is the grand prize. This is where out of that Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf, and Iran controls that, obviously. It's their shoreline. That's where around 25% of the daily oil that flows across the world flows. 25% of what we consume. But it's about 40% of all the oil that's exported, right? So a lot of countries produce and consume their own oil. What does the world really care about? It's exportable oil, and there's a whole big chunk of it comes through that little tiny choke point. So this is what's at risk here right now. If Iran did decide, hey, our egos are too bruised, this is existential, they're really holding a very serious card in this game. And if they play that card, Brennan, if they say, we're shutting down the strait, and they manage to accomplish that for 30 to 60 days. I don't know how the Western economies survive that, given how much debt we have, given how fragile they are, given where the consumers are in this story, given where everybody's just sort of on edge, but also levered up with just tons of debt, not to mention our own government going into deficits and further debt. So this is a very volatile situation right now. And I think we would need to have the calmest negotiators who have a long-term interest of our country at heart. And that's where you said, is Trump being tarnished a little? I think so, because he campaigned on no more wars in America first. And this is getting both those things are in question right now.
Okay, so where do you see gold going by the end of the year, if you had to guess?
Probably closing in on 4,000, probably my guess. I think if it was allowed to just run freely, if it wasn't being sort of managed higher slowly over time by whoever does that, I think its native price would be 5,000 to 10,000 right now, because we're looking at something that I think you and I have talked about before, which is that the dollar as a reserve currency is under question. And so what's a reserve currency? It means The United States exports a lot. We export a lot of dollars. It's what we do. Our trade deficit alone this year is going to be between $800 and $900 billion. That means that there's 800 to 900 billion US dollars that are overseas somewhere. And we want people to hold on to them, not send them right back. Because if they send them right back, we experience that as they don't want dollars. So they buy other things with those dollars, which means the dollar appears to be falling in price. And as it does that, we experience that as more inflation, rising prices for all things imported. We're seeing a little of that with the tariffs, right? Because, you'd say, okay, Walmart has to spend 20, 30% more on something as a fee to the government to import something from China. They'll eat some of that. They'll pass some of that along. Just it's how business works. But with the dollar potentially losing its reserve currency status, and not losing it going to zero, but I mean, every time it ticks down a single percent, it's 70% of foreign reserve, 67, all that just starts ticking down. As that happens, we find that it gets harder and harder to fund our deficits, the interest payments on the outstanding debt, and it just gets harder and harder to conduct business. And gold, I think, stands a very strong chance of being part of the monetary future, not as like a thing you wear on a wedding band or you and I might buy a coin to store, but I mean as part of the international monetary structure. And that's happening even as we speak.
Let's talk about your going to the No Kings rallies this weekend. You along with a few others told me, or broadcast on your platforms, it looked like a geriatric convention.
And not a healthy one either, if there is such a thing. No, I mean, there were people in walkers, there were masks, there was a lot of, they were just, but I would have to say the median age, like half people older, half younger, was probably around 65, maybe 68.
What does that tell you? What does that tell you?
Well, I've heard some theories about this. Here's a good one. I just ran across this on Twitter earlier today by a guy named Victoria who said, hey, you know why boomers seem to be so susceptible to Trump derangement syndrome, Elon derangement syndrome, whatever the next thing derangement syndrome is that they get all excited about, no kings, right? Is because they grew up at a time, a lot of them, Walter Cronkite was on the news. You could trust the news. That was your source, but they didn't grow up in this information fire hose time that you and I maybe are more familiar with because of our lines of work, or younger people because they grew up with these devices. So they don't really have the filters necessary to understand when they are just being programmed. And my detection for this is, Brannon, I'm a very curious guy. I'm not very confrontational. I'll ask people lots of questions. And I got just met with blank stares and then hostility when I would scratch at something, like somebody be holding a sign up that would say, Elon is stealing my rights. Great. Which rights? Well, we all know what rights he's stealing, they would say. I'd say, well, I don't. So which ones? And they couldn't have the conversation because they couldn't name one, right? It was just something they'd heard, I guess, and now it's on a sign. And that got programmed in, obviously. They didn't have context for it. They couldn't defend it. And so the first line of defense I found, instead of saying, I should look into that, maybe I should know why I'm holding this sign up. The first line of defense was to get hostile and angry, which is a sign that somebody's not holding an opinion. An opinion is guarded by facts. Here's my facts. A belief system is guarded by emotions. So they had a belief that Elon was stealing rights. Don't know where it came from. And so they got very emotional when challenged around that. So I saw a lot of aging, unhappy people, very low context, didn't have a lot of backing for what they said, super poor argumentation, debating, communication skills. And I worry, Brennan, that we're going to have an economic crisis at some point. To me, that's just going to happen. These people are poorly prepared for that moment because they don't have the context. They don't have any emotional resilience. They don't know why. It's just going to be a complete out of the blue shock. And they're going to just blame somebody rather than take a good hard look in the mirror and say, how did I miss this coming? How is this on me? I don't think they're going to do that.
And does that mean we're going to have a lot of, not that those folks would be out rioting, I don't think, but is this going to create a lot of bad pictures for the media to say we've got, elderly people that are starving, they don't have food, they don't have medicine, they weren't prepared, and now we've got a national crisis on our hands. Maybe the power grid in part goes down, maybe it's biological attack, a terrorist attack somewhere, services are disrupted. I don't know what it is. Massive inflation, hyperinflation. I have no idea. Maybe all the above at one time, right? Who knows? But this is going to create quite the scene for the television cameras, right? Old people dying because they don't have services. And of course, they're all going to be looking for someone to blame instead of accepting responsibility.
Yeah, it's going to happen. And of course, we've had a lot of whatever ism you want to call it, collectivism, socialism, communism. Listen, those isms are all fueled by the twin emotions of envy and resentment, you know? And so that's what they're sort of keying on. They're very mad about things. I would say it's fair to say that the No Kings placards, and there were a lot of them, Brennan, they kind of summed up to, we're against 42 flavors of ice cream, right? They just were against all these things. And the real showstopper of the question was, cool, what are you for, right? And because that's where you build the commonality, the overlap, right? I would hope we would all be for safety, for leaving behind a better world for our kids and grandkids, for having a life of meaning and prosperity and all of that. That should be the starting point for the conversation. But here's the thing, all those isms, socialism, communism, totalitarianism, those people are professional terror downers. I don't think there were a lot of entrepreneurs in this crowd. I don't think there were a lot of self-made people. I think they were at best paycheck people, and in many cases, but some of them were clearly on the dole. So point is that to get through these times that we're coming up on, we're going to need those people who build, not tear down. So I'm kind of writing off this No Kings crowd as sort of, at best, those people are sort of just in the way. And at worst, Brennan, they're going to fight us because, you know, it'll be very unfair that they don't have money or something like that, and they'll want it. So they have a lot of political power right now, I think, because both sides of the aisle in Washington don't want to disappoint anybody. Prediction: when our next economic crisis starts, the calls will be irresistible for DC to start printing and handing out stimmy checks and, the stimulus checks, all that.
Yep.
So when that happens, inflation comes roaring back.
Yep. Tell me about this. U.S. tankers dispatched eastward. Civil war in Europe, inevitable? ? Tell me about that before we let you go.
Sure. So there's a whole bunch of tankers. So tankers are the air refueling vessels that they fly around, big slow things. They're full of jet fuel, and they refuel helicopters and jets mid sortie, as it were. So 24 of them left the United States. They went over. The story is, and this is probably true, that there's an exercise coming up in Finland called Atlantic Trident 25. That's where they're going. But a bunch of them went to places all around the Mediterranean, and some of them landed in Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. So the question is this the United States pre-staging some things that I'm sure Russia's not all that happy about these things coming over, but maybe they're going to be used in the Middle East. If needed, they are now more easily dispatched to the Middle East from, say, Germany than from Omaha. So they're over there. We already know the United States has been involved in this. We shot down some missiles the other night, according to us. We've been doing tracking. Obviously, we're helping a lot in this whole story. Iran has said, don't get involved. Listen, I don't see signs that this is dialing down yet. As our mutual friend Michael Yan would say, wars do two things. They grow, and then they grow larger. I think we're still at the larger stage on this. That's my personal assessment, and that's based on, if you saw last night, I don't know if you saw all the missiles coming into Tel Aviv and Haifa.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there were too many to count in one of the videos I saw. It was just, and by the way, they are frightening, these hypersonics that come in. So it's still growing. I don't think we're anywhere near the end of this at this point in time. And I think everybody should be prepared for much higher gasoline prices, oil prices, and some uncertainty about how all this happens in our economy. But if the Strait of Hormuz gets closed, I want everybody to just, whatever you need's topping off in your household, get it done, right? Extra food, extra fuel, cash out of the bank, the whole 9 yards, because if that gets closed down, we could get into rationing pretty quickly, even here.
Yeah, indeed we could. I don't know. Where do you want it to go? People go to your X or go to your website or both? Which one you want?
I'll go to the website, and you can always find me on X, but the website, peakprosperity.com. And if you went to the homepage, you'd probably notice that we have see the tickets on sale? We have this is a lot of fun. This is our own yearly gathering. September 12, 13, 14. We take over this whole camp right there on that lake, just that view you see right there. And man, it's a great time. This is where people come together, Brennan, talk face to face. It's kind of almost like a family gathering now. People have been coming for years, and it's just a lot of fun. So if anybody wants to come to that, we would love to have you. And it's time for us to begin having some serious conversations. We have one event. We have so many good events at this thing, but one of them is we leave all the cell phones out of all the smartwatches. We leave them out of the room, and we have the conversations that we all need to have.
That's great.
Important to do.
That's it, indeed. Peakprosperity.com, peakprosperity.com. And of course, you'll be one of the keynote speakers at our annual conference, October 3rd and 4th. Full details at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. As always, great to have your analysis, Chris. Look forward to having you back again. And of course, having you in the Mid-South this fall.
Thank you. Looking forward to that as well.
Thank you. Chris Martinson checking in, folks. Check out his site, peakprosperity.com. Irritable bowel syndrome, gut health, and ADD or ADHD. Is there any connection? Well, one of the things we do here, of course, is study the trends. What are people talking about? This is one of the health topics that's trending right now. So I asked Dr. Lana, let's talk about that this week. She joins us for our weekly visit with Dr. Lana. Dr. Lana, welcome back. Thanks for being with us.
Happy to be here, as always.
IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. There you go. A little graphic there, the bowel, the abnormal contractions. Tell us about IBS, gut health, ADD, ADHD, how it's all connected.
Absolutely. And ironically, as you know, we didn't plan this, but I suffered as a young girl, teenager, young adult with IBS myself. So I know what it's like. It's one of the reasons why I went to school to get my doctorate. I just could not receive complete help in the allopathic medical world, even though there's well-meaning medical doctors. So irritable bowel syndrome has two components to it. First of all, obviously, gut health, the health of your entire GI tract needs looked at. And there's also a stressor in there. The enteric nervous system is the nervous system that lives in your gut. So when you have a gut feeling, everyone, you're like, my intuition, I had a gut feeling about that. It's real, okay? The Chinese, in a good way, the Chinese call the gut the second brain. Oh. So IBS is not only irritation in the GI tract, there's a stressor to it. Maybe somebody is stressed because they're in college or in school. A relationship could be stressing them out, a job or a boss or something. There is a stressor in their life as well that's irritating and inflaming their gut and also impacting that enteric nervous system that lives in their gut. So you all know that the brain and the gut are connected. We hear that a lot. So that's why, Brannon, you're seeing this in the news. There really is a connection to irritable bowel syndrome and ADD, ADHD, that attention deficit disorder, because the gut sends more messages to the brain than the brain does to the gut. So that's a synopsis of irritable bowel syndrome. And anybody can get it. It can hit anybody at any age. They can be okay, and then an event could happen, or maybe some dietary things, stressful things, medications could happen, and they have IBS and they don't know what's going on. They can trend back and forth to diarrhea, to constipation, nervousness, bloat, overall abdominal discomfort.
Okay, so what do people do about it?
So we are going to be helping your audience with that. And in a nutshell, because this is, I'm going to speak obviously generally, but this is a little bit of a slippery slope because gut health requires some really specific moves in diet and lifestyle, and actually in supplementation. You have to be really, really careful with supplements in the gut health world. And I'll talk about that at the end. So in general, I'm going to start with the nerves. And a lot of people don't stop for a minute and I tell people, look at their life. Like my own private patients, I'll say, go back to as soon as you can remember. Are you 3, 4, 5, 6 years old? Go back to childhood, go back to going through school, go back to your relationships, go into your profession, your job. And honestly, deep inside your soul, stop and think, who or what is causing you stress? I mean, we all have stress in life. Everybody is. Good stress, bad stress. You can have stress because you're planning a wedding or somebody in your family's having a baby, and that's happy stress, but it's stress. So I want you to look back in your life and say, okay, who or what are causing me stress? And what shifts, what changes can you make to reduce some of that stress? I've had people, honestly, I've had patients, and I'm being very, very clear, honest, and helpful and transparent as you all want and need me to be here. But I've had people break up relationships. I've had people get divorces. I've had people go talk to their bosses. I've had people change jobs, change careers. I'm not telling you all to go do that. I'm just giving you real life examples in my practice of people have made changes in their lives. I had somebody at a busy executive, they had IBS, and I said, listen, aren't there things at work that you could delegate? And they ended up getting an assistant at work, and their IBS went away. We made some dietary changes. So number one, look at stressors. And number two, and this is just a general piece of help for you around your gut health, is I want you to start thinking of one food, one ingredient. One food, one ingredient. It's a whole food. And we just naturally gravitate to processed foods because we're in America and they're easy and they're quick and they're fast. So I want you to start thinking about how you could plan your day and maybe take a cup of cut up, watermelon and cut up melons, to work as a snack rather than grabbing something out of the machine. What can you do at home to have ready one ingredient, one foods handy that you're fueling your body with one ingredient foods, meaning, an apple, a banana, strawberries, a sweet potato, asparagus is a one ingredient food. There's no nutrition label, no supplement or nutrition label on a one ingredient food. If it's a zucchini, you don't need to know what's in it. It's a zucchini. And that may sound really elementary, but people don't realize how many times they're grabbing a processed food. And then the third thing I do is really educate people around supplementation. So if you like, I can dive into that, Brannon.
Let me ask you real quick though, what about like sodas, caffeine, chocolate, that kind of stuff?
There is a very, very specific dietary protocol that we're going to help all your people with in the near future. But in general, and everybody's different because there's different GI disorders. So there's diverticulitis, there's Crohn's and colitis, there's celiac disease, there's irritable bowel syndrome. So they're all a little bit different. So bottom line, IBS, chocolate, soda, all of that. Let me just make a general statement to help everybody with bloat and IBS and gut issues. Carbonation is the devil to your gut. Okay, carbonation of any kind, whether it's soda, it's Coca-Cola, it's Diet Coca-Cola.
So if you have irritable bowel syndrome, stop the soda.
Stop, more specific, sir, stop carbonation. So if you're going out and say, like, I don't want to go out, I don't want to have a glass of alcohol, most people will say, if you're socializing, oh, you know what, I'll have club soda with lime. And they're like, yeah, I don't drink, I'm going to have club soda. Worst thing, carbonation for the gut. Think of the bubbles, the CO2. I mean, it is just bloating and irritating.
But let me ask you this quick. Why is it, though, that after a heavy meal, my wife and I want something with carbonation? Why is that, and what can we substitute it for?
You want something with carbonation. Okay, so I'll go back and keep this, short and sweet, but this goes back to my 5-step system. I'll keep this really short and sweet. most of us, as we've lived in the United States of America, and we are over 30, 40, 50 years old as we're getting older, our cell membranes get clogged. So even though we're eating well, a lot of the nutrition isn't getting broken down effectively in the GI tract and isn't entering the cells to fuel the cell. So we might have cravings. We want a glass of ginger ale or root beer or carbonation, or we want some chocolate. That chocolate can or cannot cause issues with IBS patients. I've had a lot of patients with IBS, they could eat chocolate. So that's again, we'll do that in the program. But my point is, when you have a craving of any kind, whether it's a carbonated drink or a piece of chocolate after dinner, our cell membranes get clogged from medications, from food, from living, from cough syrup, from going through the pandemic. Seriously, our cell membranes get clogged and they get misshapen. And remember, our cell membranes have doors and windows on them, and they need to open and close appropriately because you need to get hormones in and out of the cell. You need to get toxins, garbage out. Got to take out the garbage every day. And you have to get nutrition in the cells. It's why, honestly, and Brannon, you know, you and I don't plan this, but it's why I talk about the trifecta of supplementation. If you have gut issues, do not take multivitamins. You don't need omega-3 fish pills. You don't need, I take everybody off of supplementation except for a few things. I have them do Bella Grace. Why? Because this absolutely helps the gut, helps calm the gut. It also, talk about ADD and IBS, Bella Grace gets astaxanthin, which is nature's beautiful antioxidants found in nature, across the blood-brain barrier, my friends. Everybody thinks I take one a day because of the collagen, the good collagen in here. Well, that's great, but that's just a frosting on the cake for me. There is awesome collagen in here, but there are antioxidants that cross your blood-brain barrier, and this also is excellent for calming your gut. I'm going to the second piece of the trifecta. The gaditana is God's food getting inside your cells because of the microscopic size. This is God's perfect food. And if you have ADD, you are low in magnesium. There's magnesium in here. You're low in omega-3 fatty acids. There's omega-3 in here. You are low in zinc. There's zinc in here. Trace minerals in here. Amino acids in here. But guess what? God made it. Man didn't make it. So the gaditana phytoplankton is getting God's nutrition inside your cell membranes, even though they're clogged and they may be misshapen because of the microscopic size of the phytoplankton. And then trifecta number 3 is your glutathione. Why? The glutathione cleans up your cell membranes and helps the nutrition get in and the toxins get out. So we can't make this up, Brannon. I thank God every day the doctors shared those 3 wellness tools with me, but I hope that helps everybody when they're focusing on their brain health and their gut health.
Absolutely. So I want to show you a paper. I found a paper. Here it is. Association between attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and intestinal disorders, a systemic review and meta-analysis, June 2nd, 2025. So this is why this is trending right now.
Absolutely. And I tell everyone, you can go to, it's like, you don't have to believe me. I was trained by incredible medical doctors that laid their reputations on the line to do the right thing for the patients. You can go to pubmed.gov, which is the National Library of Medicine. You can put in attention deficit disorder and things like glutathione. You can put attention deficit disorder and astaxanthin. You can look up the ingredient in here and see the connection. You could put attention deficit disorder and magnesium or omega-3s, and you will see that you need glutathione. You need antioxidants in your brain that the Bella Grace elixir provides. You need the nutrients, omega-3s of God's nutrition with the gaditana. You go to pubmed.gov, put that in the search bar, my friends, and you will see the studies just fill your computer screen or your phone. And know that we are stating facts here, not just, something to tell you to go get some supplements. These are life altering, these three, and they will be of great help to your brain and your gut health.
So go here, folks, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. You'll get all three of them. Bella Grace, you'll see the Gatatana, and the Numi, which is the glutathione. The three I do every day. And again, if you're worried about gut health and ADD, ADHD, irritable bowel syndrome, all these things, stress. By the way, within the first 24 hours of taking a Bella Grace, I turned to my wife and I said, is it just me or does this make you calmer? She said she experienced that as well. Have other people said taking Bella Grace makes them feel calmer?
Absolutely. Well, if you all remember, if you all remember the story, my mom is going to be 89 and she's on one medication and she is sharper and calmer than all of her friends in their 60s and 70s. And my friends, I am telling you, my 88-year-old mother never misses a day. She does swish about 3 times a day. And she takes her Bella Grace every single day. Her hair is growing like crazy and she's very calm. And the Gatatana, if you remember the story, she had a little issue with her brain last May. And this also helped really bring back her calm and kind, peaceful personality. So all three of them are needed, and it does. It helps you feel peaceful and calm because you're getting that astaxanthin in your brain, Brannon, and you're getting nutrition from God. Really, God made it in your cells. And then the glutathione helps to clean up the cell membranes. Excellent. So they can function.
Awesome. As always, Dr. Lana, thank you for all you do. And her website is inspiredbywellness.com. And we look forward to having you back and talking more about gut health.
Sounds good. My pleasure. Have a great night, everyone. God bless.
Dr. Lana checking in. Okay, worldviewtube.com/sponsors to find all the great products that she just talked about that I take, Melissa takes. We take all three of those every day. It's a great way, I think, to support your health and us at the same time. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right, folks, that's our broadcast for tonight. You appreciate what we're doing? If so, we sure appreciate your support. Would you please consider going to worldviewfoundation.com? Worldview, come on over here. You haven't said hi tonight. Worldview Foundation, come on up. You haven't said hi this week. You've been pretty quiet this week. Huh? You've been pretty quiet this week, haven't you? Yep, you have. You're doing good, though, aren't you? Yep, you're doing good. Worldviewfoundation.com if you appreciate what we're doing here and want to support us. Worldviewfoundation.com. You also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. So thank you for doing that. Don't forget about all those great products at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. Hey, by the way, our national conference coming up on October 3rd and 4th, about 30 minutes outside of Memphis, Tennessee, and the very middle class and the very safe Collierville, Tennessee. All right, don't be afraid of Memphis, folks. Unless you plan to go out and hang out in Orange Mound or Fraser, I think you'll be fine, right? We've been living here 21 years, not a problem here. WorldviewStore.com. Get your tickets, folks. Come to beautiful Bluff City, Collierville, Tennessee, outside of Memphis. May God save America. Take care.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisol collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
Spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast on this June 17th, 2025. Joining me today is going to be Anni Cyrus, born and raised in Iran, and our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco. It is very fluid moving here, the information, and it is getting hard to nail down because some people say one thing and then they turn around and say another. So it's getting very confusing, my folks, and the MAGA coalition seems to be now split right down the middle. And maybe that's what the deep state and the military-industrial complex wanted all along. Get America involved in a war in the Middle East and split the MAGA movement even before the 6th-month anniversary of President Trump's second term. And what will that do to the rest of his agenda? And now, of course, we have reports that America may be indeed getting more involved as ships and planes and refueling aircraft are being moved into the region. We also have threats against the Strait of Hormuz, which could mean quite a bit for energy prices. We'll get to that. And who is really running Iran right now? A lot of their leaders, they're dead. And the quote, supreme leader, end quote, Khamenei apparently is hiding in a bunker that Annie reported last night is very vulnerable. She said that's a very vulnerable location to be in. He won't live very long if he pops his head up. He's going to be very vulnerable trying to get out of there. And now President Trump says we know where he's at, but we're not going to kill him for now. So who's running Iran? Anni Cyrus, she's written an article. She says it's now the IRGC running Iran. And what, if anything, will China, Russia, North Korea do in this expanding conflict in the Middle East? And how does it all fit into Bible prophecy as well? Joining me now are Anni Cyrus and Aaron Lavarco. Guys, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Brannon.
Let's start with you, Aaron. It is 9:03 at night, correct, there in Israel tonight?
Correct. Yes, it is.
And tell me what's the latest coming out of your country?
Well, right now, we've got dozens of our jets that are fighting, are attacking Tehran. Interestingly, the number of missiles that have been fired upon us are actually decreasing. Over the last 4 days, the numbers have started 200, 100, 75, 30 or 40. So the numbers are decreasing. That's because we're blowing up installation plants. We're attacking their capabilities. So that doesn't mean that our sirens haven't been going off. We are still on edge, of course, but right now we took a pounding in Tel Aviv again. Buildings were destroyed, and people were suffering from shock. And some elderly were suffering from trauma, but we're very much on our edge. watching mainly our Air Force fighting. And of course, we're waiting now to see the maneuvers from the Americans who are now starting to, Donald Trump is starting to talk more and more about sending his perhaps troops, not just Air Force, but the latest big news is that there's talk of the 30,000-pound bombs being sent over on B-52s and dropping them on the Fordow nuclear spot. However, there's concerns that it could cause nuclear fallout. So there's a lot of talk going on. And then, of course, the big news of the letter of Mike Huckabee to Donald Trump as well. So we're following that news. But right now, we're just trying to get updates about how these missiles are getting through, destroying buildings, and we're trying to defend our people as much as possible. But we're also looking at how the numbers from the Iranians are decreasing. And then today, Benjamin Netanyahu and our defense team are saying probably another week at this level, and we could have it all finished. So I don't know exactly what they mean by that. We're not talking about a we're not talking about a regime, or they weren't talking about a regime change. They were talking about cutting off the main sources of the Iranian regime's power.
Well, let's hold right there for a second. We have the ambassador of Israel to the United States saying, if you thought the pager attack was a big deal, that is going to pair in comparison. It's going to be very small in comparison to what's coming Thursday or Friday. Listen to what he had to say.
A number of surprises. When the dust settles, you're going to see some surprises on Thursday night and Friday that will make the beeper operation almost seem simple.
Almost seems simple. Any hint as to what that is, Aaron?
Haven't got a clue, but I'm excited.
All right, let's go over to Annie. Annie, you've got a new article out today. The Supreme Leader just surrendered his throne. You predicted this on our network during Brannon Howse Live a couple times the last few days.
Yes. So it has been announced, not by the regime, but Iran International is my main source, but a Supreme Leader decided to give majority of his power to IRGC's Supreme Council. That might be a very new word to your audience. IRGC's Supreme Council was put together or in place in 1980 by Khamenei, the previous Supreme Leader, when for times of war, basically. So if the Supreme Leader decides to hand over power, he has the right to do that, which he just did. Technically, it's the military coup, but volunteered by the Supreme Leader. So officially, Iran's ruled by IRGC now, or better yet, IRGC's Supreme Council. Also, from now on, whatever military action is taken will not be followed by Sharia Supreme Leader. It will be followed by Islamic generals. I can break that down if it's needed, Brad.
Yeah, go ahead, do it.
Okay, so for example, until 10 minutes ago, people like Tulsi Gabbard kept saying, Iran's not even trying to make a bomb because they're following the fatwa or judgment of their Supreme Leader. And yes, in 2003, Khamenei came out and said, we will not build nuclear weapon because it goes against Sharia. However, as of 10 minutes ago, the judgments and fatwas by the Supreme Leader are completely off the table. Everything's off the table. Now it's Islamic commanders following every step by Sharia put in place by Muhammad. Behead him, slaughter him, kill him, take him captive, whatever is in Sharia book is now on play, as far as the military and governance of Iran applies.
So, Donald Trump has now basically thrown his DNI under the bus, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. He said, I don't really care what she's saying when it comes to the fact that Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon yet. I think they do. So did Dr. Peter Vincent-Pry and many, many others. I think even the former CIA director, James Woolsey, believed that as well, according to Pry. But President Trump kind of threw her under the bus last night on Air Force One, did he not?
Yes, he did. He definitely did. But I'm not a Tulsi Gabbard fan. I have never been. I from day one, I said she's going to turn against us. But however, as far as throwing her under the bus, this is not a new move by President Trump. He tends to do that when things start to work against him. Mm-hmm. And since you said President Trump, I just want to mention something. I have not had the chance to even post this yet, but I want to tell my fellow Americans as much, we love our country, no question about it. And as Brannon said, we give grace to President Trump when he does something right or when he does something good. But please don't fall for the whole copying code by code of Netanyahu today. We know where Khamenei is, but we're not targeting him today. He's an easy target. These are word by word what Netanyahu has been saying for the last 3 days. So cheer him when he's doing something right. But I've seen online people are like, look, he's calling for Khamenei's decent. He's not. He's literally copying whatever was said by Bibi Netanyahu for the last 3 days.
And yet he now is made. Fox News had the headline. Let me get actually took a picture of it as I went through the room and saw the TV was on. And the headline by Fox was, Trump, we have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. What do you mean?
What do you mean? Netanyahu said 2 days ago.
What do you mean we? I didn't realize we were involved in anything. I thought we were not involved. I mean, we have been told so many different things by this administration that if this were another administration, the loudmouths on social media would be screaming and hollering. But no, they're not, because they're more committed to their clickbait and MAGA movement than they are putting out good information. But they would be screaming and hollering any other administration where you're into now day 5 and the president has still not addressed the nation. But Bill O'Reilly is texting with him, and Bill O'Reilly is spilling the evidence of those talks. But the president of the United States has not addressed the American people, but has time to text with Bill O'Reilly. That is insulting to the 77 million people that voted for him, and frankly, those that didn't vote for him that are
Exactly. And if I could add, Brannon, I feel like huge part of nothing being said is in America, the mindset is quote unquote the bigger picture. A majority of Americans are just focusing on, are we going to go to war or not? There is way more factors involved than are we going to go to war or not. The after effect, the behavior of the leader that we call leader today, all of that needs to be analyzed. We can't just brush over Trump because his name is Trump. Again, I'll name names. If this was Obama, right now, right from the right side, conservatives, he would be named every name in the book if he treated the country the way Trump has treated the country.
By what? By not talking to us? By flip-flopping? By being contradictory in his social truth statements, or what?
Flip-flopping. Mainly by flip-flopping. You know how quickly they would label Obama for flip-flopping? That he's part of the regime, he's getting funded, the Qatar money is behind him, all of that would roll right in. But because this is Donald Trump, we focus only on, are we going to war or not?
Well, you know what I see, Brennan?
Yeah.
You know, Anni, what I see, maybe, could it be that Donald Trump, he's allowing Bibi to do the tough work, he's got our back, and he's sending over a couple of B-52 bombers with 30,000-pound bombs. He's going to drop them, and he's going to ride into Iran, filling up that vacuum